Hi folks, this is Mohan here.
Hey, this is Ravi.
We are here to show you the NFT based hydroponic system that we have assembled at New Jersey, and it has yielded us excellent results.
And we are completely new to farming or gardening. This is our first attempt at growing a plant, and we've had tremendous results. So we're going to share how we put this thing together, the parts that we used, and hopefully that will save you some time.
Not just that, we're going to share you some lessons learned so that you don't have to, you can learn from our mistakes, and also take a look at the video. If you feel that there would have been any areas that we could have done better, feel free to leave a comment.
Yeah, and before we get started with the walkthrough, there are two folks we would like to thank. One is Heartfulness Meditation guys. They have given us the resources to put this thing together. This whole system is actually situated in their garage. So many thanks to them. They are the real deal. Check them out. They teach meditation. They're all over North America, Europe, and Asia.
And the second guy is the MHP Gardener. So it has been a great learning for us watching his videos, and even the system that we have deployed here is based on his ideas and techniques. So do check out his YouTube channel. It is a great source of knowledge in terms of hydroponics. So it is worth checking that out.
Yeah, we love you, man. Lord willing, we'll see you one day, MHP Gardener. Alright guys, so we'll start the walkthrough of the system with the wooden frame that it's sitting on. Our objective was simple. We wanted something that will give us room for the plumbing that's required for an NFT system. We wanted something that's convenient to work with. We didn't want to bend down or kneel down every single time we wanted to check it out. And thirdly, we didn't want to spend a lot of money. So we want to put something very simple together. So what we did was we bought a bunch of 2x4 treated wood from nearest Home Depot. And we made this rectangular frame first. And then we sat the frame on top of these 4 feet tall studs. And we have 3 of them across the length. And this is a typical, I believe this is a 10 feet or 8 feet 2x4 piece of lumber. And as you can see, there's one more standing here. This is uncut. This is what we use to mount the lights. What we did is we put each of these in all the 4 corners, and we ran 2 beams in parallel here. And on these we put some 2x2 wood, which is used to suspend the lights. I thought suspending lights would be a challenging task, but fortunately, thanks to my friend Mohan, it ended up being a simple solution. So what we did was we put this 2x2 on these beams on either sides, and we used a U-bolt to hang the light. So that's our simple wood frame. I think we got about 10 or 12 pieces of 2x4s, and this is something we found lying around, and we got these brackets that you can see, steel brackets. I think they were probably 90 cents each from Home Depot that helped us put this together. So that's just our simple wooden frame that we used to put this system on. Alright guys, now let's look at the grow channels. For this system, we went ahead with 4 grow channels. It's a pilot system, so we just stuck with 4. We got each channel made using a PVC vinyl fence post. This is 100 inches long and 4 inches by 4 inches. We found it at Home Depot. I think each one of it is 25 bucks, if I remember it right. On each of these grow channels, what we did was we drilled a 3-inch hole, and we have a 3-inch hole every 6 inches. And not just that, the spacing between each of these vinyl jackets, each of the grow channels is also 6 inches. For the end caps, what we did was we used the end caps that were found at Home Depot, and we put them together using silicone gel. And we found that the silicone gel holds it together well. And if you're noticing that there is no plant here, that's because we harvested it this morning, and that's why you would also have noticed some beautiful roots here. And you can see I'm not able to pull it out, but we'll come to that more later on. So in brief, that's our grow channels. Alright, so now let's look at the supply line. Right? This is a NFT system, so the nutrients have to be circulated through the system continuously. So for that, what we have used is a 1/2-inch polyethylene pipe. We brought this from Amazon.com. The one end of this pipe is hooked up to a 1000 gallon per hour motor. It's a E1 Sum Plus. We'll put that in the parts list in the comments. And the other end of the pipe is capped, as you can see. These end caps, we got them from loaves.com. They're very simple to use. You just fold the pipe and push them in, and that's it. So these are pretty cool end caps that we found. Once this supply line is done, what we've done is we punched a hole into the polyethylene pipe like this, and then we pushed in a 1/4-inch barbed adapter. This is a 1/4-inch barbed connector that we find in Lowe's or Home Depots or Amazon. And then to this barbed adapter we hooked up a 1/4-inch polyethylene pipe again. The result is you get a flow that looks like this, and this will make sure that there is a continuous supply of nutrients. Now this is one end of the vinyl fence post grow channel where we are doing the supply, and on the other end is the plumbing, which we'll take a look at now. Alright, so now let's look at the plumbing. We've seen that on the grow channel, on one end we have the nutrients being supplied using a polyethylene irrigation pipe. On the other end, after a certain height is reached within the grow channel, the water has to drain out, the nutrients have to drain out and go back into the reservoir. So for that, what we have used is a bulkhead and a 1/2-inch nipple into the bulkhead that will help us maintain the height of nutrients within the grow channel. And once the water reaches or nutrients reach a certain level, they will flow out of the bulkhead into the plumbing. Now this plumbing is the return that takes the nutrients back into the reservoir. And as you can see in the picture, we've used a 1.5-inch drain pipe to go back to take the nutrients back to the reservoir, and the bulkheads are connected to the 1.5-inch reservoir using adapter. What I would strongly recommend is, if you are using PVC plumbing, build out the entire system there, right there in your hardware store, and then bring it back. Otherwise you'll end up making multiple trips. So that's briefly about the plumbing. Alright, so next up is the lights. As you can see, this is an indoor NFT system, so we needed lights, and we were trying to go with LEDs. We initially were contemplating whether to go with T5s or with LEDs. We lean towards LEDs because they are more economical to run. What we went with is Viper Spectra's LED lights. These give us coverage of about 2 feet by 2 feet, and the distance between the vinyl jacket and the light is exactly 2 feet as well. The manual does say you can expand it to 3 feet, but when we tried that setup, we felt that the plants beyond 2 feet were not getting adequate light. So we went with 2 feet by 2 feet coverage for each of the light, and we needed 6 lights to cover this entire frame. And this is something we bought on Amazon.com primarily because they had excellent reviews, and each of these units is about $90. And in this entire system, this is the most expensive part because we had to buy 6 lights. That adds up to about $550+. As far as the satisfaction with these light goes, we are quite happy with these lights. As you can see, the growth has been very nice, and I would recommend these to anybody else. If you think there are better lights out there that we could try, definitely leave it in the comments. And if you're somebody who has a power sensor or a spectral meter, I think it will definitely help the entire hydroponic community if you can test out a few cheap LED lights and see which one's nearest. That way we don't have to spend a lot of money on this. I mean, each of this is $90. If I could just get a roll of LED for $20 and cover the entire system, nothing like it. So see if you can do that. I'll probably try to do it if I get hold of a spectral meter or a quantum power sensor. Alright guys, time to talk about the greenhouse. This is basically a garage. So we had some extra space here that we could use for our setup. So this space is not huge. It's about 12 feet long by 15 feet, I think. So what we did was we used some 2x2 to make a frame, and we used some poly that was lying around to close it. And we were building the system in April 2017, so we knew we were getting into summer. So we bought a cheap air conditioner for about $100 from Lowe's, and we put it in. And I think it was sized appropriately for this space, but what we felt was we could have gone for a higher spec air conditioner. To make sure that this comes on at the right times, what we used was an Inkbird controller. This would either turn on a heating unit or a cooling unit based on the temperature. This particular Inkbird unit that you see can handle up to 1200 watts. What that means is you cannot really use it for a large scale installation. It is just about okay for this size setup, but I think we will, if we are to expand and make this a bigger space, we obviously have to go for a commercial grade or a professional grade controller. And the greenhouse itself, we were able to keep the temperatures reasonably under control, but whenever the temperatures get as high as 90s, it becomes difficult. I think the conditioner, even though the air conditioner was sized for this kind of room, it didn't quite stand up, primarily because of the lights that we added. We've noticed that the lights were taking up the temperature anywhere between 2 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit. So the AC couldn't really handle all the load inside. So if I were to redo this, I would probably go for a higher spec air conditioner. Other than that, this is a fairly simple garage. We just blocked a corner of it using poly, and we put in an air conditioner, and that's our greenhouse setup for this pilot. Alright guys, so now it's time for lessons learned. There are 5 key lessons that we think we've learned through this pilot. Now there could be more, maybe we are overlooking something, so feel free to put those down in the comments. We are happy to receive your feedback. So starting with the first one, the way we have attached the motor to the supply line. What we did was we drilled a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch hole into the lid, ran the pipe through it, and then attached the motor using an adapter. What that means is I can't easily pull the lid out because I have a motor dangling to it. Now we knew it was a problem in the beginning, but we thought this is not going to be touched until the end, and we felt that's okay, we can take that chance. But what it turned out was, towards the end, as Mohan pointed out, the plants were taking 3 to 4 gallons each day. What that meant was we had to refill the tote multiple times. So it was a bit of hassle. So if you're designing your system, I would say plan for it and figure out a way where you can easily pull the motor out, pull the lid out, so that you can refill the tote quickly. The second lesson learned is algae. Now we did not have any algae in the tank, but what we did notice was slight amount of algae on net cups in some places. And the reason for that, as we understand it, is we put the hydroton first and then drop the rock pool on top of it instead of doing it the other way around. What that had we done that, we would have had hydroton covering on top, and hopefully that would have prevented algae. Now we did have somebody who's an expert in these things. He did come over and take a look, and he mentioned that this amount of algae is not going to hurt anything, and he was right. The plants came out great, but I would have loved the system to be absolutely clean with zero algae. So it's no big deal, but still I think that's a lesson learned for us.
And all right, going to the third point, it was with the hydrotons. So they said it is pH stabilized, but what we observed was it was always shooting up to like 0.7 or 0.8 value more than the expected pH value. And what we also observed was like something that we all have to take care of every time you want to refill the reservoir. So we have to make sure that it gets the right proportion of the nutrients. So the nutrient that we are talking here is the master blend, that is the ChemGrow, the Epsom salt, and the calcium nitrate. So make sure everything is perpetuated well, and then measure the pH to obtain the desired pH value, and then you put it into the reservoir.
Yeah, we would forget measuring the pH value when we make some additional nutrients. We put it in the reservoir, then test the pH, then realize it has shot up. So plants got these intermittent shocks of high pH values. I think that could have been avoided. I don't know if we had any significant impact, but I think that's an easy thing to avoid.
That's it.
And oh, by the way, there's one more lesson learned, which is the last one. This is about the plants that you grow. Make sure that you know when to harvest them. What we did not know, which we did not bother to read up, is that for arugula we could have harvested the tiny leaves without waiting all the way until the end. We had about 9 pounds of harvest in just 2 crow channels. We had about 6 pounds of Swiss chard and 3 pounds of arugula. Had we harvested the tiny baby leaves of arugula, we could have probably had maybe 10 pounds, who knows. So I would say if you're going with some crops, figure out if you can harvest them ahead of cycle a bit more so that your yield goes up. So those are all the 5 lessons learned we have from the system so far. Maybe we'll think of more as we go along, but if you have something, feel free to add them in the comments. So folks, that was the NFT hydroponic system that we put together. Overall, we had great fun solving the puzzle, putting it together, doing the research. It was very rewarding, but the best part of it all is to see the plants grow. And we had tremendous joy when these seedlings first germinated, and even more when we saw them grow to what they are. And we had wonderful time harvesting them. So I would encourage anybody who is trying to get their hands dirty with farming or gardening, definitely do it. It's totally worth it. And if you are new to gardening or farming like me, if we could do that, so can you. So definitely give it a shot.
And also thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you MHP Gardener and the Artfulness Meditation Center for giving us this opportunity and the facility to make this a successful initiative.
All right, check those guys out. Thank you.